Okay, that's better. Now we can start. Thank you. I
Okay.
knew it. I had a little blurb in here about please be patient with our glitches, and there you go. We know for next time, so that won't happen next time. We've got our moderator. She's going to help us with questions. We're here to talk to you about quilting and community. And being creative is such an important part of nurturing our souls. And whether you're producing sewing, crafting, painting, gardening, cooking. For us, quilts and spending time in this community is what gives us peace in a crazy world. And the world is quite crazy right now. We all know that. So this series is about sharing experiences in all aspects of the quilting community. And we are going to be speaking with quilters. We're going to be speaking with quilt shop owners. We're going to be speaking with some fabric companies, other pattern designers, fabric designers, any and everyone who can give us some of their perspectives on this community and how great it is, and so that we can all become closer and connected in a world where connections are super important. So that's our mandate. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
So right now we're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves. So Shari's going to go first.
Okay. I'm Shari. I live in Winkler, Manitoba, which is about 10 minutes from the North Dakota border, so the bottom end of Manitoba. My husband and I have 3 grandsons, which keep us very busy. We love that. We like to camp, we like to ride motorcycle, we like to fish, we like to be outside. I love anything creative. And after owning a quilt shop for 10 years, we dissolved our inventory and kept the business name. And I'm just trying to do a hard reset on going from retail to selling to customers to now designing and trying to create a portfolio and getting time to sit down and finish drawing things and so on. So it feels like it's taking me forever, but that's what I'm doing right now. And that's still the same person. I'm just trying to grow out my hair.
Well, there's nothing fast about working in this world. It's about, it takes time to make that transition. And it is a big transition. My story is similar. I started off practicing law in Vancouver. And then we had 4 children. And then I opened 2 quilt shops. And then I sold my stores and started designing quilt patterns. And I've been doing that since 2009. I work with a lot of different fabric manufacturers. And so the way that works is they send me JPEGs of their upcoming fabric lines, and then I design for their marketing materials. So I'm not really out there personally a lot promoting my stuff. It also more goes through all the fabric companies and their salespeople. Shari and I met at Quilt Market many years ago, which is an annual trade show that takes place twice a year in the United States. And here we are. Like, that's just one example. That's, isn't it? My first example of quilting community is meeting new people from Winkler, Manitoba. Like, how else would we have met, right?
All right. I wouldn't know.
It's through quilting, of all things. Yep. We met through quilting. And thank goodness we did, because you're fabulous. Anyways, so I'm going to ask you, how did you fall in love with quilting?
Okay. I believe it was when I was 8. I was probably the first time I made things and out of fabric, and I would use like liquid embroidery and the sewing machine. My mom always had a sewing machine. I watched my mom sew out of necessity a lot of times. So she'd be sewing everything from underwear to anything we needed. I got a new belt. Like she made this elastic belt, things like that. But when she would sit down with a box of fabric and make a quilt, there was something different about it. It wasn't sewing like this. It was like there was a joy that she had. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want to sew things that I had to sew. I wanted to sew things that gave her that same joy. So one day she bought a box of rags at a thrift shop, and that's what she used because she couldn't afford fabric. So in there, I found some fabric that just felt completely different, like completely. So I looked on the salvage and it said Moda Fabrics, and I didn't know what that was at the time when I was younger, but I knew someday I wanted to know what that was.
What a
And
great find.
yeah, it was. And yeah, and so I made a few things, and it wasn't until after my kids that I started making, well, I made quilts, baby quilts for them all along, but it was always just my own design, my own pattern. I never knew how to follow a pattern until I was older.
Yeah. Um, well, my tradition, my movement into quilting is a little bit different. I've always had a fascination with fabric and color. I mean, I think my favorite thing to do on a weekend was to hang out at Fabricland in Richmond. It was the most amazing, beautiful store with just fabric galore. And so when I started working as a lawyer, I made all my own clothes because at that time I didn't have any money, and making clothes was cheaper then, not like now. Like I think didn't have the Gap or any of those places where you can get fast fashion at relatively cheaply. So yeah, I made all my own clothes. And then when I was working, I was on a committee for the United Way fundraiser, and we were all supposed to contribute something. I said, well, I'm going to make a quilt. So I made this baby quilt. I bought a panel. I can't even remember what it looks like. I know I put like a border around it with ribbon, which I sewed on top. And then I put that, I don't know, it's like an eyelet. It's an eyelet ribbon. You know, I've been thinking about what that's called all this time, and bam, just popped in my head. Eyelet ribbon. I put eyelet ribbon all around it, and sold it at this auction we had in the cafeteria at the law firm. And not only did I sell that one, but one of the senior partners asked me to make one for his grandchild. And I thought, oh, this is exciting. So that's when I really just kind of connected with it, because it was so much more freeing than, like you were talking about, not there. I didn't get the joy from making clothes, and I know a lot of people do. And actually, one of my neighbors has her own little clothing company that she started up. She sells fabric out of her house and designs clothing patterns. And she, you should see her face. She just totally lights up when she talks about it. But for me, I just don't like worrying about whether something's going to fit, or, doing curved seams and clipping and, anyways.
Yeah.
Not diminishing it. It's just not my joy. So when I started quilting, it was so free, and just all you need to do is a straight line, basically, unless you're doing something super complicated. It was awesome. So, when did you first make your first quilt with a pattern?
That was, I think, I want to say 20, I wrote it down here somewhere. Oh, okay, it was about 15 years ago, whatever year that was. The first time I ever used a pattern, I had a book. When you could, I actually have it here, like Old as the Hills.
Oh, wow.
So back when you could join a book club, and then you get to choose 10 books every month or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then they send you these nice hardcover books, and I collected and I collected. And one day I wanted to make a quilt because I was in between jobs, and I had this, I don't even know, it was a panel fabric, printed pictures, and I want to see the quilt. My friend has it, but I have not thought to ask her to see it. But I didn't know how to make, like when it said make your binding.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to do. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't follow the instructions. Like, I just felt so overwhelmed, because if I would have sat down and not followed a pattern, I would have known what I was doing, because there's no rules.
Yeah.
Right? But then I followed a pattern, and then I felt compelled to learn these things. So that I gave her the quilt. I finished it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
have
did you say
no,
you folded the back over to the front or something like that? That's how you
yeah,
did. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
did the binding, and I know I hand quilted it, and it wasn't fancy, but that was the first time I legitimately followed a pattern. Like,
Wow.
okay, this is kind of cool.
Okay. I'm gonna let a little secret of my own. Um, the first quilt I made with a pattern was after I opened my quilt shop.
I only learned 1/8 inch after I opened the quilt shop.
And it was so funny because I didn't know what a fat quarter was. So I put on this stealthy voice and I phoned the competition and said, "Hi, I'm just wondering what is a fat quarter?" But sometimes you just gotta jump off the deep end. And I just thought, well, I mean, how difficult can it be to open a quilt shop? Because I love fabric and I like quilts. So, anyways, so I made this quilt and it was a block of the month, thimbleberries, and it's back in the day when Lynette Jensen. I always used to call her Lynette. She has that. There's a Lynette Jennings too, and I always get them confused. But it's Lynette Jensen, and she was a fabric designer with RJR Fabrics, and she was so prolific. She had so many patterns and bags and blocks of the month and project of the month. Anyways, so it was one of those, and you were supposed to make blocks that were all the same size, obviously, for a block of the month, and mine were not. I don't know if they were supposed to be 12 and a half or 14 and a half, but they were all different sizes. So I just cut them down, cut parts of it off, not realizing that that was not how to deal with that. And then again, the binding, the mystery binding, because there's a lot of assumptions in quilt patterns. And I will confess, in my patterns, I don't explain how to do binding because it's one of those things you learn when you take your first class. And there was no instructions on how to do binding. So my binding was not folded. It was this big flat flange on the outside, and it's just ridiculous. I still have the quilt. It's up at the cabin, and it's on one of the beds up there. So I'm not hiding it, but I don't have it to show you. But anyway, so after that, I took a class, and boy, did I taught. And that's where the community starts. Really, is your first class, because you learn not only from your teacher, you learn from the people in the class with you, and then on those skills, you build up to doing more things and feeling more confident. And it was just a great place to meet people. Now, classes are offered in your local quilt shops, in guilds, but of course you have to be a member of that. But there's also online classes available now, and you were going to talk something about that.
Yeah, I was going to say learning is just so different these days, even opposed to 10 years ago when I started my shop. Because we started with classes, and then we did the beginner classes. We made a pillow and taught all the piecing and borders and binding and envelope back. Nowadays, there's so many ways to learn, so many platforms, so many teachers, a tribe for everybody. I'm
Yeah,
not saying that there isn't room for everybody. There is room for everybody. There's a tribe for everybody that wants to teach something.
yeah,
But in my experience, you can be very easily, I love to learn things, so you can be very easily pulled into everything and become overwhelmed. You don't need to know everything when you
no,
start quilting. Just
no,
for me, too much information can lead to a stall. So if you're looking to learn something, go to your quilt shop and find out what they have as a class. If you don't have a quilt shop or you don't have classes, go online. There's lots online. Don't look too far and find too many different ones. Just pick one and learn. Or ask a friend or a guild or a group of people, because we like to share our knowledge as quilters. I don't want to, watch you struggle with something. I
yeah,
want
for
to,
sure.
I don't want you to have to learn the same way I learned 1/8 of an inch, like by going to Rona and buying a measuring tape that it said it on there.
Yeah, it's funny because I used to think that the reason why I enjoyed helping people with their quilting is because I came from a family of teachers. My dad was a teacher, my mom was a teacher, my sister is a teacher, my cousins are teachers. It's sort of like the black sheep that didn't go into teaching. But I think it's just part of being a quilter. Like, it's just because you enjoy it so much when once you get into it, and it just becomes it becomes a bit of a way of life, really.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yep.
so and you just can't help but want to share, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here, and probably also why Sherry's here. But it's just like, when I had my shops, the best part of that was helping the customers, helping them choose fabric, helping them do stuff with their quilting, and I miss that, actually. But going back to the community thing, there's other options for community as well. There's retreats, and a lot of
Right.
shops have retreats, or you can do it with the guild again. And I know when I had my shop, I used to have a retreat at my cabin, and it started out with just a couple friends, and then we sort of expanded to the point where we filled all the bedrooms. So it wasn't a lot because it wasn't a very big place, but it was so much fun. Like, we would get up in the morning, and you know what the great thing about going away with a bunch of women is, and I'm not trying to be sexist here, but for my retreat, it was just women. So they bring their A game for the food, because everybody's wanting to going to see what you're making. Is It was a potluck situation, so this person was doing lunches, this person was doing dinners, this person was doing snacks. Oh my goodness, I never ate so all my total life. And the wine, which made the quilting a little bit more sketchy at night, but we got so much done. Like, it was just so great. And then you get to that point, you're holding up your project and going, "Ta-da, I made a block, I made a block." And
Yeah.
it's just like, "And I made a block, and I made a block." And it was just like, and then we'd like, "Oh, whoops, what did I do here?" But it was just like, I don't know, it was just, and not everybody even quilted. Like, I think there was a couple people that came that, were doing stitching, or just reading, just getting away from home and being away from the kids and the family, and just hanging out with a bunch of your buds was fun. We also hosted a retreat on a cruise. We left Galveston, Texas, and went through to Mexico, Belize, and it was fun. And we were really lucky because the year after there was a massive hurricane that went through there and completely wiped out parts of Galveston, which was terrible. I'm just glad that's not the year we had our inaugural. Can you imagine? Welcome to our quilt retreat, and oh my goodness, hold on and try not to throw up too much. It would have just been horrible. Anyways, I've also seen some retreats like in France and stuff, where people go and you go to local shops and go to the flea market and learn French cooking and do some quilting. And I don't know, it's one of those things that you can open up a whole new world. And I remember when we were preparing for this, we were talking about when customers would come into the shops in groups.
Mm-hmm.
So much, so fun, because they'd be like, "Okay, oh, did you see this? Oh, I like that. Do you like that? I'm gonna get that. I could get that. No, no, I'm getting it. Well, we can both get it. Oh, and look over there. I like that too. Let's get that too." And then
Those
we
are
would
my
all sew
favorite.
together.
Yeah, I miss that for sure. I know I had these two ladies that would come in. Maybe they're gonna watch this, maybe not. But they would egg each other on, and they would, whoever bought the most, they would, that other person had to drive so they could pet their own fabric all the way home, stuff like that. And it's just, uh, yeah, I miss
That was
that
fun.
for
Those
sure.
are great customers too. You want them to come in every day.
They always made us smile, always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, can you hear me? Your volume is gone. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, the great thing about doing projects together is you hold each other accountable, because we all live very busy lives, and there's a lot of things to do with our time, whether it's looking after um, the kids, looking after the house, going to work. I mean, there's not very many people that don't work outside of the home at some point in their lives, and all these different competing things. But having someone work on the same project with you keeps you accountable. So, you'll take that half an hour you have after the kids go to bed, or that, weekend when you wake up early in the morning, you'll make that make that block so that your friend can say, look, I did it. No, look, I did it. You know, so it's like anything that you take on that's new, like even exercising, right? You always want to have an accountability buddy, but it's good to have that in quilting too, because it helps you finish projects, because finishing is fabulous, because you have something and you made that.
Yeah.
With your hands, you made that. And wow, that is just one of the best things. Now, I had a note here too that the other side of community is not just what the community can do for you, but what you can do for the community. And quilting is one of those things that is great for charities, because different groups will use them for fundraisers. And one of the groups that I got to know a little bit better at Quilt Canada, which was in June, which was an amazing show. And I'm telling you, there were so many people there. Like, I haven't seen that many people at a quilt show in years, like probably 15 years. And I don't know if it's post-COVID or what, or whether there's this sort of like renewed interest in quilting. But it was amazing. And again, that was sort of one of the reasons why I thought that this whole community forum was a good idea. But anyways, I digress. So I met this lady there. We went to an evening at Northcott, which is a fabric manufacturer in Ontario, and they have a partnership collaboration with the Quilts of Valor for Canada. And I know Quilts of Valor is pretty big in the States with giving quilts to veterans, but it's actually pretty big here too. And Northcott has designed a bunch of panels and things with military respect and memorializing events on the fabric, and then people use that to make quilts that are given to veterans that are when they're injured, or not sure the exact criteria, but whether when they've been discharged, or when they've left, or when they retire, or anyways. But it's such a great group of people, and the lady that runs it is from Newfoundland, and which was awesome for us, because my husband and I just bought a house in Newfoundland last year. It's in downtown St. John's, and we met a bunch of other ladies there from Newfoundland. And I will say about Newfoundland, they are the friendliest, most excellent province. And I'm not saying that to devalue any of the other provinces, but I'm really focused on Newfoundland these days because I just absolutely love it there. They are so friendly, and they are so creative, and it's an incredible artistic community. There's quilts everywhere in Newfoundland. Like, I think probably the quilting per capita there, it must be really, really high. And one of the ladies I also met owns the quilt shop on Water Street, which is in downtown St. John's, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from where we live. And so a little plug out for East Coast Quilt Co. But yeah, so if you, as a Canadian, I bet you a lot of us can say we've been to Nova Scotia, we've been to New Brunswick, we've been to PEI, but we haven't been to Newfoundland because it's that extra plane. Go there. You will, it's like visiting Ireland, but you get to pay in Canadian dollars.
I will book a holiday with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know where you can stay.
Yeah. So this East Coast Quilt Company, is that the shop that designed 100 Acre Wood?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But they have some fabric there that is specific to their shop based on like the jelly bean houses and Newfoundland themes.
Okay.
But I don't know. I will have to find out. Thank you for bringing that up.
Well, I just quilted a quilt for someone.
Oh, okay.
I think it is East Coast Quilt Company. Somebody can tell me.
Yeah, anyone in the comments know the answer to that question, we would love to know.
It was a Winnie the Pooh quilt.
No, it's Art East Quilting Co.
Art East.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah, no, we won't go there. But I'd still love to book a holiday.
Oh yeah. I mean, the East Coast is amazing. I mean, all parts of our country are amazing. And, you know, I think one of the joys of having a hobby like quilting is there's always some place to visit when you go on your travels across across Canada, across the United States, across Europe, really. I mean, quilting's really big in Europe too. And, I was amazed because I was doing a little research the other day and there's like hundreds of quilt shops in Germany. Like, I had no clue. Like, it just, it's really, it's such a great thing. But anyways,
Yep.
let's not forget one more thing, family and friends. What connection when you make a quilt for someone that you love when they're, celebrating a wedding or an anniversary or doing a quilt with photos on it, or if you're giving a quilt to someone who's going through a rough patch or they're sick, or, it's just, it creates a memory and it creates a bond that lasts forever, really. And, hopefully some of those quilts are, kept for generations. Of course, none of my generations made quilts, so I don't have that. But, it's a great place to start because, I've made quilts for my family and my kids and my sisters and my grandkids now. So, yeah, it's such a great thing. So how do you think quilting has changed for you over the years?
Well, I know measurements now. I don't know why I keep talking about that, but that was really a big fear for me, that somebody would come in and ask me for something I didn't know when I opened a shop.
Yeah.
And it happened over and over and over. And that's how I learned, like by not being too proud to say, I'm going to learn that. I'm going to go wherever I have to and learn that. But the biggest thing that has changed for me is, like I said earlier, I went from retail to, and I love bringing in the fabric, saying, oh, so-and-so is going to love this, so-and-so is going to love this. And then, everybody just devouring it. It was just it made me so happy. I loved it.
Yeah.
So now I look at it from a design point, and it's like, okay, I want to make something, but I get stalled because my brain says, oh, but I need to make a pattern, or I need to show someone how to do this so that not only I can do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a lot of quilts you look out there and you think, oh, wow, that's beautiful. I'd love to do that. Well, she doesn't have a pattern. She's just creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be that person, but I also want to make a pattern out of everything.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make myself some simple, Kathy Holden has this fabric with these flour sack things on images on there. Well, I want to make myself a pair of pants out of that.
So you should.
And I'm stalled because I keep thinking, oh, well, maybe I should just write a tutorial, or maybe I should do a live, or maybe I should do this.
Yeah.
And I just need to do it. So that changed for me, that my brain, I have to tell my brain that I can just have fun. It doesn't always have to be about teaching. I can teach later if somebody wants to know, right?
Right.
So, but that is, and that it's more of a therapy for me, since we haven't been at the shop, and the first year and a half, almost 2 years, Leroy was at home. So I spent a lot of time at home, and then you have to do things that will give you therapy at home. And sewing. I did a lot of sewing, so it's changed in that way. It's been a different sort of therapy, but also become a teaching.
Yeah. Well, it's that creativity. I don't know, like, people say, well, I'm not creative. Well, maybe you're not creative in one thing, but you could be creative in something else. And I think, quilting, if it's something that interests you, really, like I said, it's just a straight seam. There's so much you can do with just that one skill. And it just gives you an element of, just the different colors, the different fabrics, just creating something that's you, and taking a pattern, like,
and
my patterns are all, they try and tell a story, my patterns, based on the fabric. So I look at something and I say, okay, well, this is what this fabric is telling me that it wants to be. And as silly as that might sound to somebody who doesn't think that way, it's just how I think. And I always start with the fabric, and I always start with fabric on JPEGs. I don't even have it in my hand when I'm designing. And I don't know, it's just so much fun just to, and you start on something and it just kind of morphs into something else.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, you're done.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
don't be afraid to evolve, right? Like
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
because you started off, loving this type of fabric or that color or that type of pattern doesn't mean you can't evolve.
No, and you have to evolve. You have to pivot. You have to. It's like any industry. You've got to go with the flow.
Right.
So, wow, we've been chatting for half an hour, which is where I wanted to get to. So, do we have any questions? No questions. Anybody have any questions or feedback they want to discuss out there? I see people are talking about their favorite quilting and their crafts and how fabric speaks to them. Yeah, it's funny how, I think it's not just the designs on the fabric too, it's the color. One of my favorite things when I had my shop was opening the boxes for the embroidery thread. I mean, how stupid is that? But I just love the colors and they're just so pretty and so rich, and you just put them in the drawer and then you'd open another box. Oh, look at this one.
Yeah.
Stupid. I don't know. There's something just so great about visual art and visual stimulation from color.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my plan with this broadcast is to go every second Thursday. And unless sort of life gets in the way, because sometimes it does. In addition to coaxing Shari back, we are going to be having shop owners, fabric manufacturers, fabric designers, other pattern designers, and we're going to be focusing on Canada and Canadian connections, but there's no real borders in quilting. So we will chat with our neighbors and our friends throughout the world as well, if they're willing to chat and be part of our group. I'm hoping to eventually broadcast it simultaneously on Facebook, but I have to figure that out. And if you've enjoyed our broadcast, and let your friends know about it, and please join our Facebook group. It's called Canada Quilts Together, and with Coach House Designs. And Kathy Schmitz is going to visit us. Yay! Now, I have a little story about Kathy Schmitz, and she's probably going, shut up, Barb. The great thing about Kathy is when I first started going to Quilt Market, I had a shop, and Kathy was there with her fabrics, and I just fell in love with her fabrics. Like, she was one of the first lines I carried in my shop, and after that, I carried everything that she did. And when I was at Quilt Market one time, I said, I really want to design my own patterns. And Kathy says, well, why? Kathy, oh no. I said, well, why don't you design with my fabric? And I thought, oh, really? She goes, yeah, no, I like stitching and I like designing, but I don't do tons of quilting, so I'd love for you to work with them. And I went, yes. And so I designed a pattern with Kathy. It's fabric. It was called, oh gosh, shoot, I can't remember what it was called. Holly Jolly Snowman? No. Anyways, my pattern was called Winter Welcome, and I sold more patterns, because Moda made it into a kit. I think that was my #1 selling pattern probably for 10 years after. And I thought, holy schmoly, this Kathy Schmitz thing is amazing. So she got me started, and then she introduced me to other fabric designers, like my friend Deb Strain, and it's just one designer at a time and one manufacturer at a time, and now I work with several, but Kathy's laughing. But yeah, she's amazing. She's a great friend, and I'm so excited. She has publicly announced that she will attend one of our broadcasts. So I'm holding her to it. So the other thing we have in the comments, and when we post this broadcast on Facebook and YouTube, there'll be a form there that you can fill out to give us some feedback. And if you have any suggestions for who you might want to hear from going forward. And one last thing, on Monday, this coming Monday, July 28th, Deb Strain and I are doing a giveaway again. And to promote her newest fabric line called I Love Fall Most of All. and it's in blues and oranges and aqua. It's really, really quite pretty. And she will be giving away a box of fabric cuttings, and I will be giving away 4 patterns to 4 different people. And if you follow the instructions on Instagram, because it'll be on Instagram, you have to follow us and comment and tag someone or something like that. And then you can get a chance to win. So it's kind of a fun thing. We do it every time one of Deb's lines comes out. So something, a little free thing from us to you. And we'd love it if you would join us for that as well.